Welcome back to News Talk. Joining us now, Tom Schwelkeld, Editor-in-Chief of the DC Pro Sports Report. Welcome back. It's always good having you here.
Great to be here, Bruce.
There's a lot going on. The Skins coming off the bye and the big win just before the bye week. I think they're looking at the stiffest test one can have in the NFL. They prepare to take on the New England Patriots. Right. So we'll talk about that. First, though, give us your take, if you would, on the Nationals' hiring of Dusty Baker. It feels like they got the second choice, if you will, the top man. And there are almost echoes of what we were talking about at the top of the hour in terms of Metro. Metro wanted Neil Cohen. Cohen wanted to come, right, we believe, but they couldn't reach agreement in terms of the particulars. Is that what happened with Bud Black? Is that why the San Diego skipper is not now our skipper?
That is the reason. A week ago, the Nationals informed Black that he was their choice to be the next manager. They couldn't come to an agreement on the contract. The deal is the Lerners, who own the Washington Nationals, don't like to give more than 2 guaranteed years to a manager. They don't do it. And Bud Black, when he was informed that he would not be getting more than 2 years, was appalled. Frankly, he was insulted by the offer that was given to him, and he turned it down. And they went back to what is reportedly their second choice, Dusty Baker. Now, here's the thing. Baker's a very good hire. There's nothing wrong with Dusty Baker. He's got 20 years of managerial experience. He's won National League Manager of the Year 3 times. He took I think he's been to the playoffs I think about 7 times. He took the 2002 Giants to the World Series. So he won an NL pennant. Very qualified. Players love him and respect him. But you know, he is a guy who's been out of baseball for a couple of years. He was fired by the Reds after taking the Reds to the playoffs in 2013, and he wanted the Nationals job back then and wasn't interviewed. He was interviewed this time, and they turned to him. Baker's 66 years old, and so a shorter-term contract is probably more acceptable to him. My guess is that Black was looking for at least 3 years. You saw that the Don Mattingly, the new manager of the Florida Marlins, got 4 years. So the Lerners are very unusual. They won't give managers, at least so far, more than 2 years. And all they've said is that Baker got a multi-year contract. Now,
there's a word you've used a couple times here. It begins with a P. Playoffs?
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that, flesh out that concept for us, if you would, playoffs?
That's his job. That's Dusty Baker's job. That's right. That's Dusty Baker's job, is to get this team back to the playoffs and back to, you know, World Series contention, the kind of team that they were supposed to be at the beginning of the year, the team that the New York Mets
You mean they play after
turned
September?
Out to be. Yes, you can do that. And they've done it. They just haven't done it very well in the past. That's Baker's job. He has this kind of experience, so he's a very good hire. The thing is, if they just hired him a week ago, no eyebrows would have been raised. There'd have been no concern about it. They look like amateurs here, like they don't know how to handle managers, and they frankly don't. For all the talk about the way Dan Snyder burns through coaches, next year the Nationals will be their 11th year in Washington. Dusty Baker will be their 6th manager. No one has held the job for more than 2.5 seasons, and some of them have left under poor circumstances. If we all go back to
Jim Riggleman.
June of 2011, Jim Riggleman, who was in the midst of winning 10 out of 11 games with the Nationals, just quit because he went to the front office and said to Mike Rizzo, "I'd like more job security." He'd been given virtually none, a series of 1-year contracts, and they turned him down flat. And he said, "I've had enough of this," and he walked. Which is something a lot of big league managers with some experience and self-respect would do. And frankly, Bud Black and a lot of managers just value themselves more than the Lerners value managers.
So let's fast forward to April and hope that this bit with Bud Black and Dusty Baker has sort of receded into the rearview mirror, and we're thinking about the talent that returns and whatever pieces get accumulated between now and the start of the 2016 season. You balance Dusty Baker's track record, his assets, his attributes, etc., against whatever downside there is to his having been out of the game a little bit, and he's at 66.
A bit older.
A little older.
He's the second oldest manager in Major League Baseball, I think. But the oldest is Terry Collins of the Mets, who just won the pennant.
Indeed. So where do you think we'll be mentally, if you will, come April with Dusty Baker in charge?
Look, I think Baker will be fine. He is very well qualified. There are very few candidates out there who are more qualified, if there are any, who are more qualified than him. Bud Black, though, was also very well qualified. He's, 8.5 years with the Padres. He never got them to the playoffs, but I think pretty much everyone in baseball recognizes that that's because the Padres spend no money and they've had complete turmoil in the front office, stuff that Bud Black has no control over. His work in San Diego was highly regarded. And as a former pitcher and someone who is regarded as doing well, working with pitchers, something that the Nats really need, he seemed like a natural choice, and he would have been a fine choice. As I said, there's nothing wrong with Dusty Baker. I think he will do a good job. It's just that the process was totally amateurish, and it looks amateurish, and people around the league, front office people and other managers, look at this and think this is really amateur hour. They don't know how to handle managers, and they don't value them.
Let's talk about what happens between now and opening day. What will you be looking for in terms of the free agency process, though, the players who are likely to lose, those we might go after, players who might be in the pipeline, who might have been AAA, whatever, this year, coming to the bigs in 16. In terms of the roster, what will you be watching?
Well, the Lerners may be cheap when it comes to managers, but they're not cheap when it comes to players. I mean, they had the 6th highest payroll in Major League Baseball last year. So it wouldn't surprise me if they went out and spent money. On the other hand, there are players in the pipeline who they could turn to. For example, Ian Desmond, the shortstop, the original National, who's the only player on the team who was drafted by the Montreal Expos. He's going to be gone. But they have Trea Turner right there. And, of course, there's also Danny Espinosa, who can play shortstop very, very well, who can play 3 different positions in the infield. Well, really 4 in the infield very well. At pitcher, they're going to lose Jordan Zimmerman. They're going to lose Doug Fister. Fister did not have a good year last year, and frankly, he finished the season in the bullpen, really. So it was a mess for him. It's really more his problem trying to go out and get a good contract. But, they have guys there. They have Joe Ross, who looked very good last year, a young pitcher. They have Lucas Giolito, someone they highly regard in their farm system, and A.J. Cole, a player whom they traded away and then traded back because they traded back for him because they like him so much. So you might see some more rebuilding from within. It wouldn't surprise me if the Lerners told General Manager Mike Rizzo, look, we've spent money, right? 6th highest payroll in Major League Baseball, and we finished 83 and 79. Right, so let's, you've been working on this roster. You said this roster was built to win now and long term, and that's one of the reasons people have liked the Nationals roster for the past few years. So if we're really built to win long term, let's get some of these kids in there. The kids, by the way, are much, much cheaper than going out and spending money on someone else's player.
Let's talk football for a moment. No one's been able to figure out the Patriots this year. Does Washington go into that game thinking they can pull what might be we're close to the upset of the year, or is the goal, and I know this is kind of a naive question, but is don't get embarrassed the goal? Or, I mean, how do they approach a game like this?
Well, the players, I'm sure, are going in there thinking we're going to figure out a way to win this game. Everyone else is probably thinking just don't get embarrassed. Look, they're 14-point underdogs. That's significant. It's pretty rare to be a 14-point underdog. The Patriots generally don't lose to teams that are double-digit underdogs. They generally don't lose at home. They have a spectacular record at home. And when I keep thinking of the Patriots games, I think back to that 52-7 loss with Joe Gibbs in 2007. Where frankly that was a great Patriots team. They were undefeated at that time. They wound up going 16-0 and losing the playoffs to some team from New Jersey, the Giants. Yeah, look, that's going to be their goal. Tom Brady just won AFC Player of the Week again for his dismantling of the Miami Dolphins on Thursday night. They're a spectacular team. They don't run the ball. They're a team that doesn't even worry about not running the ball. They decided we can't run the ball, so we're not going to. And they'll have Tom Brady throw 55 times. They don't care because it works. Players go out, new players come in. They seem to produce 1 or 2 guys every year whom no one's ever heard of, who are suddenly really good contributors. And through it all, there's Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, the best at what they do year after year after year. It's a huge challenge for Washington. Fortunately for them, they're getting Deshaun Jackson back, their star wide receiver, who was really the entire offense last year, but we haven't seen anything from this year. He played less than half a quarter. So he'll be back. That could help their running game by forcing the Patriots to honor the deep throw, which has been completely absent from the Skins offense this season.
Hoping he stays healthy and can go close to full strength, but the hamstring injury...
It's tricky. Hamstrings are very tricky, which is one of the reasons he's been out so long. What he said earlier this week was he feels great, he's ready to go 100%, and I think that's what they've been waiting for, because if he comes back at 90% and then he tweaks his hamstring, he's out another month, it's a total mess. The NFC East is a dumpster fire. There are no really proven teams there. The most consistent team has been the Giants, and they're not consistent at all. So, anyone could, as ridiculous as it seems that the 3 and 4 Skins could win this division, it's a possibility. And so they want Deshaun Jackson there the whole way. 9 wins probably wins this division.
That's what I was going to say. As we sit here November 4th, 9 wins looks good, and we've seen 8 and 8 teams back in.
Right.
Tom Threlkeld of the DC Pro Sports Report. Always great having you here. Thank you, sir. Back to the program note after this.